Namaste and greetings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I'm Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, the founding minister and spiritual director. If you ever have questions about who I am, who we are, what we do, what is Spiritually Integrated Arts? What is a teaching center? What is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is metaphysical spirituality? What is New Thought? Science of Mind and Spirit? How do I become a member? How can I support, tithe, and donate? All of these questions and so many more. Send an email. You have two options. SIAADMIN, Spiritually Integrated Arts, admin at spirituallyintegratederarts.org, or spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com. Either of those will work. You can also visit our website, www.spirituallyintegratederarts.org. Now, you may be wondering, where else can I find and follow? There are several other social media platforms that you can also subscribe and follow. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, where you can also find all of our Sunday messages and more. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I look forward to you being a part of this beloved community. Because we are a virtual community, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. This can also be your spiritual community, because you can have more than one. Anywhere that you feel supported, anywhere you are spiritually fed is home, is community, is relationship. So I look forward to dialoguing more, conversing more, getting to know you. Much love and appreciation. Live long and prosper. Chat with you soon. Take care. Hello, and welcome to the next week of this exploration of what it means to speak truth to circumstances. More about that in a moment. Soon, we will be entering into the month of August, and the dates that we will gather for our after message Zoom fellowship are to be announced, to be determined. But in the interim, while we are still in July, be mindful that if you do not already have the Zoom link, send an email to either of the two email addresses that you see on your screen. And the Zoom link for the after Sunday message will be sent to you. Always be mindful to keep track of these email addresses, because they will be used for the upcoming registration of classes, for any prayer requests, and many other things. Stay tuned. Now, other ways to stay tuned: keep track of the website, visit it often, share with others. Also, follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, where all of our Sunday messages and soon to be more things are all readily accessible. If you would like to donate or tithe financially via Givelify or PayPal, the two QR codes that you see at the bottom of your screen will allow you to do so. Now, remember those email addresses that I mentioned earlier? Those email addresses also give you access to be able to get the Zoom link for the Wednesday night Science of Mind and Spirit discussion group facilitated by me, as well as the Thursday night study group facilitated by Tracy. That group goes over the questions that I always end our Sunday message with. We always have questions. We always have questions, because those questions help us to facilitate greater community building, greater communication, and greater awareness of what is this thing that we are practicing and studying. Send an email, and those two separate Zoom links will also be sent upon your request. Now, this week, the wise warrior. The Greek philosopher Plotinus said, "I do not argue, I contemplate. And as I contemplate, I let fall the seeds of thought into the mirror of mind, which then becomes the mirror of matter." Breathe. The indoctrinated way of the world has been and continues to be the way of the unpeaceful warrior, the unwise warrior. In other words, the warmongerer. They joust at every windmill, at every presumed enemy or conflict that comes their way. Whereas the wise warrior is already anchored in peace and poised in balance and wisdom. They are focused on what needs to happen without needing to fight or force. They recognize that all is one already, and they operate from that place, even when addressing inequities and that which is unjust. And all they bring to every encounter is the recentering into that oneness. One, alone in consciousness with the infinite, constitutes a complete majority, as Dr. Holmes said in the Science of Mind textbooks. So, are you a wise warrior, or are you a warmongerer? Bum, 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 bum. Well, we're about to find out. Edwin Gaines says, "When you choose your divine purpose, you are framing your life with meaning. You are also taking an important step in your spiritual development to demonstrate to yourself that you have the power to affect change, that you are bigger, stronger, wiser, more capable, more powerful, and more creative than you had previously thought or been taught to think about yourself." In other words, you come into a state of you know who and what you are, and you know the truth about yourself. Breathe. What do these people that you see on your screen have in common? Well, if you think about the topic, it would have to do with being wise warriors. Each and every one of these people, a leader. And as Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, said, a leader, in other words, a wise warrior, leads by example, not by force. Now, as you look at each of these people, we are given access to a powerful teaching by the examples that they set, the examples of how they lived their lives, how they showed up, anchored in what for each of them was their principle. Now, they did not study science of mind and spirit, but did they not have some inner divine calling that beckoned them, that moved them into the forefront of whatever it was that they were called or chose to do as a leader, as a wise warrior? What do their lives offer us? Their lives, the gospel of whomever it is, the gospel of Mamie Till Mobley, the gospel of Sylvia Rivera, the gospel of Reverend Dr. Paulie Murray, the gospel of Ida B. Wells. What do their gospels offer us? Sun Tzu goes on to also say, the supreme art of war, quote unquote, is to subdue or to not be before the enemy, right? Ultimately, it is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In other words, to not even be in a position where there is an enemy or a need to fight. There is nothing that needs to be fought in the manner that he's referring. Because we can fight for equity and justice, but what we are talking about isn't fighting, it isn't going to war. It's standing up for truth. It's speaking truth to circumstances by speaking up and speaking out. We refer to it as fighting. We refer to it as the art of war. We refer to it as the wise warrior. These are the words that we use. And yet, we understand that the energy behind them is not the same energy as a warmonger. Breathe. How are you invited to shift the energy around the enemy so that there is no need to even fight the enemy? There is no need, as Plotinus said, there is no need to argue. Rather, we contemplate and we communicate so that we may cooperate and collaborate and then co-create. In the textbook, The Essential Ernest Holmes, it is written, error is ever a coward before truth, and it cannot hide itself from capital R reality, which sees through everything, encompasses all, and penetrates even the prison walls of the mind with its clear effulgence. Error, that which is non-life affirming, that which is ignorance, cannot stand toe to toe, eye to eye with truth, nor can it hide from truth, from capital R reality. Because capital R reality, the isness and allness of all that is, sees through everything. It is everything. It even penetrates the prison walls of our own minds that have been indoctrinated by the collective consciousness. And in doing so, shatters those walls. The prison doors fly open, just like Paul and Silas. The prison doors fling open, and we are free to live our lives based in truth, based in reality, based in wisdom and integrity, aligned with principle. Now, there's a martial arts in general. Martial typically is translated as the art of war, martial arts, the art of combat. One of the ones that I've studied for many years, or used to study for many years prior to knee surgery, would have been the art of Aikido. Got so close to being a black belt. That's a different story. But Aikido offers Nage, which is the one doing the technique, an opportunity to cooperate with Uke, the one that the technique is being done to. So the one that you see falling is Uke. The one who is making Uke fall is Nage. Now, what does that have to do with anything? We're going to get to that in a moment when we talk about that symbol that you see at the bottom of your screen. But notice that none of these people are like in the Karate Kid. There's not strike hard, strike fast, no mercy. All of them involve some aspect of moving out of the way and redirecting the energy of Uke back against them. Redirecting the energy. Yeah, more about that in a moment. But simply the art of Aikido It's made up of three kanji, I, ki, do. And each one has a separate meaning. I, meaning harmony. Ki, meaning spirit, mind, or universal energy. And do, the way. So Aikido literally means the way of harmony with universal energy. Now, think about that once again when we think of both uke and nage, because both of them are practicing, studying Aikido. So both of them, the one doing the technique and the one to whom the technique is being done, are both practicing the way of harmony with universal energy. Both are learning to be in alignment with in order to master the technique. Now, if you remember, I mentioned that symbol. So, O-sensei, the founder of Aikido, who a couple of screens back, he would have been the older gentleman in the upper left-hand corner. He created this idea of Aikido and this symbol based upon the Japanese religion of Shinto. But he included the Buddhist symbols of the triangle, the circle, and the square to represent the spiritual concept of Aikido. Now, the triangle, it represents the principle of irimi, entering. Now, we're going to break this down because entering, how do I enter into reality? How do I enter into truth? How do I enter into the consciousness of the divine? What does it mean to enter into? Form and movement. Form, the form of my mental equivalent, and the movement of my life based upon the mental equivalent. Form, spiritual mind treatment, and movement, the moving of my feet after I treat. The power of birth, creation and co-creation, the spirit of fire, that burning, that, remember the last week we talked about Jacob's ladder and the concept of the burning away of that which does not serve. The spirit of fire that gives the phoenix the ability to rise anew. Sharpness, referencing the Japanese sword, or if we go to Christianity, the sword represents the truth. So the sword, truth, sharpness, truth is able to cut through ignorance. The triangle, entering, the circle, turning. Together they create this spiral, this evolutionary movement. And in the martial art of Aikido, the principle of Arimi Tenkan, enter and turn. So you enter into the consciousness of, and then you turn away from conditions. You turn away from the effect, not meaning to ignore it, but what you are doing is recognizing, for example, when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I enter into what is my spiritual practice. I enter into what is my practice for my own mental health and well-being. I enter into it. And then, recognizing that this is the physical diagnosis, I now turn to what does it mean for me to do, to be, to practice self-care, greater self-awareness. What does it mean to address anything that's going on? So I turn away from, right? In the same way, we do this all the time. If as an artist, there is a blank canvas, but in order for the canvas to be painted on, I turn away from the blankness, metaphorically, metaphysically, and I envision what it is I am going to put onto the canvas. And then anchored and grounded in that, they both blend together, right? That is the turning. There's a passage in Psalms where I lift my eyes, I lift my consciousness to the hills, for that is where my help comes from. we turn within. We turn, sometimes it's an external. I turn to my support system, right? So it's entering into and turning. The spontaneous creation of a new form. What is the technique? What is my spiritual practice? What is my mental health practice? Like, what is the technique by which I bring harmony into, by which I bring my practice of principle into the present moment? The spirit of water, as Bruce Lee said, be like water. Harmony, balance, yin, yang. And then lastly, the square, which represents completion. And so it is. The square is the source of wisdom and compassion, love and law. It is the spirit of earth being anchored and grounded. The interaction of fire and water. They are not opposites, they are complements. Fire transcends or transforms water to become steam, a gas. It is transformed, and yet the H2O of the water remains. And then that steam might become rain, which then douses the fire. And then there is what happens now in that space. It is this constant motion of the divine. When the three principles work together in oneness, moving in spherical rotations, spiraling with the flow of ki, spirit, the divine, the universal energy, then Aikido, the practice, appears. As Aman Matwane says, love and compassion. Now, the way we traditionally think about them will not change the world. Pause. What is the way that we traditionally think about love and compassion? If it's not going to change the world, then what do we think about them? He goes on, love isn't something you think about. It's not a theoretical thing. It isn't something that you do. You don't do love. It is who you are. It is who you are being. Keeping in mind that Holmes said one of the biggest problems, issues, challenges within the sphere of new thought is that we theorize far too much and practice far too little. And the reason we practice far too little is because we don't know who we are in order to know what we are practicing. I have to know who I am to know what I'm practicing. I have to know who I am as an artist. When I am being an artist, then I know that I am practicing art. If I am being a minister, then I practice my techniques, my way of showing up in the world. The things that I do in service are ministry. We have to know who we are. And part of that is rethinking, as he said, what is love and compassion? So previously, when we talked about Aikido, there was the three kanji. I, harmony. Ki, spirit, universal energy. And do, the way. But there's also another kanji in Japanese, ai, which also means love. So what would happen if we swapped I, harmony, so Aikido, still going to be Aikido, the way of harmony with universal energy, but let's take out I as in harmony and put in I as in love. And then it becomes love is the way of harmony with universal energy. What does that do for us now when we are living the way of our life? The who and what we are is the way of being in harmony with God. There's a practitioner that I know in Asheville, Charlie Shepard, who says, he wanted to create a bumper sticker. He says, you are God. Now act like it. You are it. So act like it. Demonstrate what it means to be in harmony with the universal energy, the thing itself, life. Be it. Tom Johnson says, what you are living is what you really believe. All caps. Ooh. Does he not know internet courtesy and all caps? That means he's yelling, right? Anyway, you are living what you really are, what you really believe. Whatever we are seeking, we cannot have anyway because the law of mind keeps taking that from us. It takes away from us what we are seeking. We only have what we are. Now, pause, because it's real easy to read this, hear this, and malpractice it, bypass it. What you are living is what you really believe. This is not saying that if you are living as someone who experiences a food desert, it's because you really believe it. That's not what it's saying. If you are a slave or encountered the Holocaust, well, it's what you really believe. That's why you are living it. It is not saying that. What it is saying is, we'll take Harriet Tubman, for example. Harriet Tubman in slavery. But what Harriet Tubman truly believed was freedom. And so she lived that freedom. So someone who is in a food desert, options: do nothing. I believe that nothing can be done. Or I believe, and this is the adventure. I believe that with enough people pushing in the movement of equity and justice, then the experience of what we are living must shift. And then we have access to nutritious, affordable foods. Do I believe that? Do I believe that the only way for anything to occur, they have to do it? Because I'm just one person and nothing that I do is going to make a difference. Is that what I really believe? Do I believe that I am a sinner? That I deserve to die because I am a sinner? That God has turned his back upon me? That Jesus had to die for me because that's how pathetic I am? Is that what I believe? Because if that's what I believe, then that's my mental equivalent, and my mental equivalent is going to affect the experience. So, no matter what the experience, Viktor Frankl in the Holocaust, in a concentration camp, and yet even in the midst of that, believed with his being in freedom. Now, that does not mean that the people who died believed any less, because there are many factors that come into being that affect our experiences. But what it is saying is, even with the other 1,001 other computations that come into being, we have the ability to change our thinking, to change the manner in which we communicate, to affect the manner in which we feel and emote, and how we act. But it's based upon who we are, what we are. So the moment you know that you are God incarnating itself as you, that should change all four pillars of your mental equivalent, which then affect the living experience of your life. To such a degree that even as it changes your individual experience, you feel the call to also help shift collectively. So just because you have nutritious and healthy food, you use your divine privilege and your socioeconomic privilege, your racial privilege, your gender privilege. You use whatever privilege you have access to also ensure equity and justice for others. Remember the words of Fannie Lou Hamer: none of us are free until all of us are free. Max Dupree says, the greatest thing is, at any moment, to be willing to give up who we are, or who we believe we are, in order to become all that we can be. So whatever it is we have been indoctrinated to believe that we are: sinner, incompetent, whatever that is, unworthy, surrendering that to become who we truly are and can be, we must be willing to surrender, to relinquish, to give up the old caterpillar to become the new butterfly. Speaking of transformation, there are many people that we know because they are considered great people or famous people. And I want you to pause for a moment and bring to your mind 5 great people. Do it right now. There's going to be a slight pause. Say them out loud if you can, or sign them, fingerspell them. 5 great people. Okay? Now, great people, what makes them great? What determines that they are great people? So you named 5 people. A couple of them may be seen here on the screen. But keep in mind that greatness is a choice. We'll talk about that in a second. Greatness is a choice. Okay? And in that, breathe, because I want to know, in that group of 5, did you name yourself as a great person? If not, why not? Shakespeare says in Twelfth Night, some people are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Now remember what I said, greatness is a choice. He's saying some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. You know what that means, right? Yep, you're right. Remix. Ready? All are born great. Some achieve greatness as measured by culture and society, collective consciousness, and some have greatness thrust upon them when they rise to challenge oppression, bigotry, corruption, and deceit. But all are born great. How do we choose to express our greatness? What does it mean to express our greatness, our divinity? What does that look like? What does that mean? And do we measure greatness only based upon, well, he's great because he's rich. She's great because she has done X, Y, and Z. But she's not great in and of herself. She's only great because of what she's done. He's only great because of how much money he has. So strip away the accolades, strip away the money, and you're telling me that they're no longer great? Wrong. You are right now and have always been great. You cannot be not great. Question is, what are you doing with your greatness? Pause. Let it sink in. Because we gonna venture back with Mr. Peabody into the Wayback Machine to the 70s, to the era of Kung Fu on television. And within the narrative of Kung Fu, we find this young man accepted into the Shaolin Temple. He becomes a Shaolin monk. And through all of his studies, he learns to be this great warrior, this great monk, this wise warrior who uses his martial arts only when absolutely necessary, always speaking proverbs and words of wisdom that help whomever he is encountering wherever he is traveling. He is living his greatness. In the same way, from a similar story of a wise warrior, we have Mr. Miyagi, the wise warrior, being browbeaten by a warmongerer. And then Mr. Miyagi takes young Daniel under his wing and trains him in the art of karate. But see, one of the important things that people miss in this entire divine narrative, this metaphysical story, is that Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel that the secret of karate is in his mind and his heart, not in his hands or his feet. Now, the translation for us is, it is in our mind and our heart. In other words, it is in love and law. The secret to living our best, our highest, most life-affirming lives out loud is understanding love and law. Love and law in how we show up. Love and law in how we think, how we speak, how we feel, how we act. Because love and law is who we are being. Principle, spirit, the divine. Raymond Charles Barker says, you are in the midst of a power which is saying to you, use me, direct me, express me. I am ready. Are you? Now, even though he's anthropomorphizing this, that's fine. It's poetic. But simply recognizing that there is this power for good that is the universe itself, greater than the individualization of us, because it is the all that is, and yet it is right here where we are. We are right where you are. You are a center of God consciousness. And the power of that consciousness is saying, use me, direct me, express me. I am ready. Are you ready? Are you? Are you ready to truly live out loud? Are you ready, as our affirmation, our declaration this week says, are you ready to stand in and as the power and the wholeness of spirit that you are? Are you ready? If you are, then I will say it first, and then you repeat with me on the second go round. If you are truly ready, breathe. I stand in and as the power and the wholeness of spirit, which I am. Together, I stand in and as the power and the wholeness of spirit, which I am. Breathe. And so it is. This week's questions for the Thursday night study group, or if you do this practice on your own, here we go. Number one, when does your mind or heart want to check out when you are encountering others? Like conflict. Do you not like conflict, so you check out? Do you fawn or freeze or flee? When does your mind or heart want to check out when you are encountering or engaging with others? Number two, how do you feel about seeing the intrinsic value of everyone? How can you step past your fear or distaste and do it anyway? There may be people you don't like. I don't like thinking about them. I don't like whoever they are. They're in the Klan. They're a white supremacist. They're a neo-Nazi. They're whatever they are. Serial killer. I don't want to see the intrinsic value of God in them. And that's fine for the moment. But how can you, does not absolve them of, but how can you see past the facade of that to the place of the truth, the capital R reality, the capital T truth of their being? Number 3, moving through the demons of old conditioning takes a fierce, wise warrior focus. How will you remember to keep that focus? Moving through the demons, or as we said a couple of weeks ago, the monsters, moving through, navigating through this old conditioning means that the wise warrior must have a fierce focus. How will you remember to keep that focus? Number 4, what are you invited to contemplate? To let fall the seeds of thought into the mirror of mind, which then becomes the mirror of matter, as Plotinus said earlier. What are you invited to contemplate so that your thoughts become things, so that your mind and your mental equivalent manifests a different life experience? Remember that in Dr. Strange, the Ancient One tells Stephen, at the root of existence, mind and matter meet. They are one. Number 5, what can you do to recognize, to honor, and to embody your greatness? And you'll see an asterisk there because I really want you to explore, what does that mean, greatness? What is my greatness? Why am I great? What does it even mean for me to then be able to recognize, honor, and embody? Breathe as we enter into that space of prayer. Simply in this consciousness, in this atmosphere of capital T truth and capital R reality, of the infinite consciousness of the one mind, there is only one mind, and that mind is God, and that mind is the very wisdom of creation itself. And that mind, that wisdom, is mine right now. And what is true for me is true for everyone joining in this prayer right now. One mind, perfect, whole, complete, wisdom itself. And that mind is their mind right now. It is my mind right now. It is the only mind right now. And so from this space of recognizing that and honoring it and celebrating this level of greatness, I must also recognize and celebrate and honor that this infinite wisdom is showing up in, through, and as my mental equivalent. That I have no need to argue or fight. I contemplate and I stand in and as the truth. Now, we may wonder, well, what is the truth, Reverend Ray? The truth is that God is, I am, and so it is. That is the truth. That is the whole truth. There is only God, and what is true of it is true of me, the whole truth and only that which is the truth. That truth. There is no need to argue or fight. Stand in the truth. Yeshua said, and the truth shall set you free. It sets you free to be a 21st century New Thought Good Samaritan. It sets you free to be an ambassador of love. It sets you free to be a harbinger of peace. It sets you free to be the very advocate, ally, and co-conspirator of equity, justice, emancipation, and true liberty for all. It demands, the truth demands, the truth shines regardless. And as we got before, error like darkness in a dark room, it recedes in the presence of light. It recedes in the presence of truth. And so the wise warrior that we are shines that light, stands as that truth, lives accordingly based upon that awareness. I am God, and so I act like it. I am the universe expressing, and so I act like it. Breathe. The law, which says yes, is already moving to make this that has been said the lived experience. Because prayer is already answered. It is not answered soon to be, maybe next week. It is answered right here and right now. Right here and right now. This is what is. And so with gratitude, I allow it to be exactly that. I live knowing that. I walk the walk knowing that. I stay woke knowing that. And in knowing that, I end with Ashe, Aho, and so it is. Namaste, much love, much blessings. See you soon.